Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we are working on a front porch planter with a sign going down the back of it, and it's going to be great. I've already got started. I'm going to go ahead and put the shot on me when I get finished here so that you can see what I'm doing on the wood. And I have cut, we've got 2 picket fences. I cut 11 inches off the bottom, and that's going to be the front of my planter box. And then I cut 4 more pieces of a different piece of wood that also at 11. I'm just going to make my box a simple 11 by 11 by 11 because the back boards, when they're together, equal 11, and so it's just going to be a nice little square box. And I am staining it with this beautiful weathered gray stain, and it's looking so good so far. I've only done a few pieces, but let me get you in on what we got going on. Alright, so here I have all my cut pieces, and I'm just using that stain. And I have an old t-shirt that had got some stains on it from a paint job, so I just cut it up and made like little strips to be able to use for this. And the wood that I'm using is scrap wood that I had out in the shed because I didn't want to have to use a whole picket to cut the pieces that I needed for the building of my box and all the pieces that I needed, like for supports and what have you. So I just went through all the spare pieces of wood I had out there, and most of them were 1x whatever I needed. And so I was able to utilize that wood, which, you know, that is always ideal, saving money and being able to purpose something for a good use. And the thing to always remember is all wood, it will warp and it will bow and it won't be perfect. So don't get discouraged. Just keep at it because it might not sit right, and it will make you feel like it's not adequate. I know I felt a couple times a little discouraged today because I was gluing, I was nailing, and I was screwing in different places, and sometimes it just didn't want to sit right, you know? So just be aware that it happens and it's okay. And I used probably more stain than what I should have had to use because I didn't have to come in. Most people say they have to come in and wipe the excess off. I didn't use a wood conditioner before I put the stain down, which is fine. The wood soaked that stain right up, and so it went directly into the pores of the wood. So there was really no excess for me to come back and have to clean up after the fact. So it gave it, what you see is what it is. It took it, and that's what it turned out to be at the end as well. So I enjoyed the outcome of it. I think it turned out really lovely. So I hope that whoever decides they want to purchase it loves it as well. Well, the joys of recording with your phone, it stopped recording at some point. So anyhow, I realized that I did not tell you about the brace pieces that I'm going to cut that are going to go inside the box for just like an attachment. They're 1x2s, they're small, and you could cut them, I would say, about 10 inches because your box is going to be 11 inches tall, and that'll give you enough space going up to attach your board to it. Also, you're going to need 4 of those. And also, I was thinking about it, the way that we attach our box together, the sides are inside the front and the back. So if we do 11 inches on those, it's going to make it a little longer than the 11-inch wide, which is, it's not a problem, but I don't want it like that. I want it to be more square because we built one the other day. We didn't record because we didn't know how it was going to come out. It turned out great, though. It really did, and I'll put a picture up in here so you can see what it looks like. But this one I want to be more square, so I'm going to cut those 11-inch side pieces down to 10.5, and it's still going to be a little more deep, but only by about 1/2 inch instead of a whole inch, because those boards that we are using for the front and the back are a little over 1/2 inch. So, I mean, it's give and take. I don't want to get down into the, 5/8 or whatever. I just want to do a simple 1/2 inch and go for it. So I'm going to remove a 1/2 inch off the side pieces before I start attaching those together. And I'm going to show you how I attach those. First, I'm going to cut those edges off. Okay, guys, it's way later in the day, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I had to figure, my phone would not let me record for like over 7 minutes at a time, and I was deleting everything. I still wasn't getting any space. It was my trash. Empty your trash out. I had over 4,000 things that I had deleted that was just sitting in the trash bin in my camera, and so I couldn't make a video. So now I have unlimited time, and I'm fixing to show you what else I've decided to do. And also, I know I mentioned earlier about the 1x2s that we was adding in for the supports to build the box on. So instead of doing them 10 inches, I'm going to do them 9 inches just so that we could get more out of this, because we're building another one after this. And for the bottom, I have this spare piece of plywood, and it's not quite wide enough, which is fine because I'm gonna cut 2 pieces out of it. I'm gonna straighten it up and everything, and I'm gonna do them side by side for the bottom. That way that there's an opening there for, like, if somebody has their plant in there and they want to just water it there instead of taking it out and doing all that extra stuff, it'll be a source of drainage for the excess water, so it's not just sitting there and sitting on the wood and warping it. Not that it's gonna, it's good wood, but it won't just sit there. So that's important to remember whenever you're putting your bottom on. Always try to make sure that you have a source for your water to get out of. So keep that in mind too. And I'm going to go ahead and stain this now, and then I'm going to cut the little it's funny that I went through all of this support for staining the box of this piece, because I did not measure the length of it, which I would have needed it to be at least 22 inches so that I could have an 11-inch piece for front and back. Because remember, it's 11 inches wide. Well, it was not that long, and so I was like, well, maybe if I just split it in half, it would be long enough, and it'll just be a little short on the bottom. It still wasn't long enough, so I stained that for absolutely nothing, which is fine. I had some more scrap wood, and I was able to cut 2 pieces. Here, I forgot that I was recording, guys. Sorry, I don't record a whole lot. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to do better. And yeah, I forgot. So here we go. Now you can see what I'm doing. And yeah, so I ended up having to cut another piece and staining it as well for my bottom, because I did not use the plywood that I found, which is fine. It turned out great. Okay, and these 2 pieces of wood are going to be for my very front. That is going to be the front of the box. And I'm going to take this wood, and I'm just going to make sure that that brace is far enough over to allow the 2 pieces of wood to be added to the side. And I really wanted to stay outside because it was such a pretty day, but this table hammering nails is making me contemplate life and the meaning of. So I attached the two boards to this. I glued them with some Gorilla Wood glue and beat them to death on this table, which also shook everything, and I kept having to readjust because it was just bouncing everywhere. And it wasn't a disaster. I got it done. I did end up later having to take one side out because it had adjusted so far over that I couldn't even get my side piece of wood to be flush. It just wasn't working. So no big deal. And then I go here and I'm like, well, let me switch over to my wood picket. And then I'm like, no, never mind. I'm going inside where my good table is, and I could hammer all day and not have an earthquake. Okay, we made it inside. Judgment free zone. I don't have clamps, so that's what I use. I just use really heavy stuff. It was holding down my back braces while the glue was on there. These back braces are 10 inches long, I want to say, and I'm thinking that's pretty accurate because the actual measurement from side to side width-wise is 11 inches, so I'm pretty sure I just cut them an inch shorter than the width. And getting them really secure with the glue and they're 1 1/4 inch nails. I really honestly wish I had had maybe like 1 1/2 inch nails, because whenever you start using scrap wood, the fence pickets are actually a little bit thinner than what a 1x4 or 1x6 might be. And so whenever you get into using these scrap pieces that are 1x's, they're a little bit thicker than your picket. And normally let me not say normally, the tutorial that I watched on how to make these before I started making them actually was using a picket for all the extra pieces that were going into it. And guys, this is going to look like I am overworking myself. I am having to drill holes, remove, and attach my screws step by step because they were, with the board being 9 inches long for my secure spot down there, they was off centered, and I was scared that I wasn't going to be able to line them back up right. And I don't have clamps, so I just was drilling a hole and then attaching the screws as I went from hole to hole, which was fine by me. It didn't bother me one bit. And these are my side pieces that I cut down from the 11 to the 10 and a half, and they are warped. It's not them that are warped, it's the front part that I'm attaching it to that is warped, and that's actually what was cut from the picket itself. So it was the picket that was warped. No big deal. This is where I had to I have to take 2 pieces off and readjust the brace because it was completely it was messed up. And my brace wasn't even attached to the front anymore. The nail had come undone and the glue wasn't holding anymore, and it was all because of that warp. And maybe if I had taken the front piece off and just flipped it over, but at this point I was committed, so A for effort, right? It's fine. Everything's fine. You're gonna have some warp boards. You just gotta go with the flow. Okay, so now I'm attaching the braces at the bottom of the front of the sign, which are going to be able to allow me to attach the box that I just built to the front of the board itself. And I think I went up maybe an inch just because I wanted to be able to have a good amount of space at the top of the box, the top board of the box that I'm attaching. I wanted to be able to kind of even it out in between the 2 boards. That's my craft box. That's my sublimation box. It's got all my sublimation stuff, and then it's super heavy duty. It's my stepdad gave it to me, and it is solid. And It's heavy, and I added some bricks in it, and it's got some sublimation paper in it, and just all the things. So here I'm painting y'all. That's what I'm putting on it. Hey, y'all. And I'm painting it in a white chalk paint that I got from Walmart. And I learned, everything you do is a learning process. Okay, so here I was like, maybe I should have done the edges first and then laid it down and painted the front after the edges were done, because that would have made my life easier. And I'm contemplating life at that point, because now I'm like, ugh, I'm just getting all over my hands. Fine, no worries. So I was like, I'll do it from now on. Then I pick up the A and forget the commitment to myself and start. And I was like, oh, wait, I wanted to do the edges first. So from that point forward, we remember to do the edges first. Just because it's easier to lay those down and just get a solid coat on the top after you've done the edges. It's harder to get to the edges with it laying down. And once you get that top wet, I don't care about getting paint on my fingers, but you smearing paint, fingerprints in paint, especially chalk paint, it holds on to all your life secrets and shows them all. So, and I must not have been paying attention to that A, because in the center part where I did the inside, I did a little too heavy, and it ends up not drying completely, and when I put it on the board, I get a big white paint smear on my board. You'll see. But, we just go with the flow of things, learn as we go. Life will give you lessons. You just gotta learn the lesson, grow from the lesson, become better because of the lesson, right? You didn't know you was coming here for a motivational speech. But here we are. So I wanted to get these painted so that they could start drying while I do the stencil. And I don't know if it's because I really didn't wait the full amount of time for the stain to dry completely before I tried to attach the stencil. I was gifted a Cricut maker with all the works from the website last Christmas, and I just realized today, I've been making stencils for a while, and I just realized that it came in the kit with stencil vinyl, and so I was like, what? Let me put this to the test. Oh, see, I made it. I didn't do hay y'all first. I didn't do hay first. I did the box first. Y'all, this box was giving me the blues. This is where I had to take it apart and figure out, because that one board was warped. That top board right there, it had a big bow in it. And like I said, maybe if I had flipped it over, it would have done better, but I would have had to taken everything apart, and I just didn't want to. So, that being said, it all worked out. No worries. And then after I do that, then I do hay. And then I could tell y'all about this. I don't know. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what experiences you have had with stencil vinyl. It's Cricut brand. And like I said, everything that I've had from Cricut has been a good quality product. But whenever I try to put this stencil vinyl on, it did not want to stick at all. And I told myself before I put it on, I was going to cut it in the middle, because the picket, has a split in the middle. And so I didn't. I was just going to come through with, a pair of scissors and just cut it. I ended up fighting with that thing. It did not want to stick. All that to say, let's not focus on this box that I'm fighting with down there at the end, guys. And I always misplace stuff. Oh, it was on the floor. I think my dog was hiding it from me. So here I pull out some longer nails, just because one of those warps in the board, it ends up being kind of far away, but that really ends up being on the bottom. These I'm just giving, you know, those particular screws, I'm sorry, are 1 1/4 inch. When I get to the bottom, things aren't wanting to sit right because of the one warp board just kind of threw the box, the square off. And that's fine. My cat got up there and then he ran because of the drill. But that's okay. He'll be back. See? Ain't he handsome? His name is Pudge. Can you tell? He's the handsomest boy. Okay, so now I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do the bottom. And I didn't have very many 2.5s left of those screws, so I had to choose wisely where I was going to put them because I wanted to make sure that it was really secure. And again, no clamps, so I was drilling and then screwing so that I didn't lose my place, because I already had to prop it up on a piece of folded cardboard to hold it level with the edge of the bottom around. I mean, you do what you gotta do, you know. Don't let it whoop your butt. You whoop its butt. You show it who's boss. And so we do what we have to, and it's fun. And this is where it was really giving me problems, because it was like I was putting the screws in and they were catching, they were in the wood the whole way, but it's like they weren't gripping, if that makes sense. And it was gripping all the way until it was in, and then it was just like spinning freely instead of getting tighter like it should have. And so I reached in and it was in. It didn't like skip out and go to the edge or anything. It was in. I don't know what was going on. So on the other side there was a little gap, and so I used my last 2.5 inch on that other side over there to close the gap and kind of make it tighter so that there wasn't a large gap between the bottom board and the side piece. It's going on the front porch, y'all. I mean, come on. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be pretty. Alright, now we get to the spacing of the letters so that I can see where I'm going to put this. And that font I got on Canva and sent it over to my Cricut. I'm going to cut a little strip off here thinking that it's going to help me to be able to just peel the backing off and rub my stencil on there. It was a mess. Okay, so painter's tape. That was my next idea. I mean, it was really stuck to the backing, so maybe I'm going to try it again. I'm just going to try it on just a regular piece of wood instead of trying to do it on something that I just stained a couple hours earlier. I feel like maybe I set it up for a failure and I didn't give it a good chance. I mean, here we are. Welcome to my TED Talk, where nothing's ever in order, but it always gets done anyway, right? I'm telling you, I pushed and pushed and pushed and pressed and pushed and pressed. Ugh. And I just wanted to get it to a point where I could do my Mod Podge, because, you know, when you're going to paint something like this, when you're painting your stencil, you do not want it to bleed under the stencil, the paint that you use. I showed you my Mod Podge, but I got it going so fast that you probably didn't see it, but you see it there. So, anywho, I'm trying to essentially use the Mod Podge to hold my stencil down, to, like, you know, glue it down. And it was a situation, guys. It really, really was. So I cut my center again because I was trying to prevent the bleeding of the color of the paint. I'm just going to use the regular white chalk paint that I used on the lettering, the 3D letters. So I let that dry while I go and figure out my spacing and get these letters glued down. And I use brad nails, and so I'm measuring and making sure that, you know, from side to side, there's my white spot, from side to side, that it's even on each side. Which is funny because my A for somehow, And I'm so detail oriented. Guys, my A shifted at some point. At the end, you'll see it shifted, and the top went to one side, and so the bottom went to another. It doesn't look bad, but I can see it because I knew how much time I spent on measuring these letters, making sure they were even on each side the whole way through. And so I immediately saw it and was like, is that a Cricut? But at that point, it was glued and stapled down. That sucker ain't going nowhere. Not anytime soon. Unless I want to regret more than I do now, you know? Anywho. So, I thought I cleaned it up. I ended up putting it right back on there. I should have cleaned the back of the A off. Okay? Lesson learned. So, glue. Clean up my glue. It's good to have glue come out the sides because that means you know you have enough. If it's not coming out the sides, then it's usually an indication that you could use a little bit more. That's how you know you're going to have a good solid coat in between layers of whatever you're attaching to whatever you're attaching it to. So, that being said, now that they're all glued down, I got my staple gun that has brads in it, and I pushed too hard on one side and moved it. See, I just seen it. That's where I messed up at. I moved it myself. I didn't correct the top after I corrected the bottom. No worries, everything's fine over here. So, now we get to the top. And it's dry, so I feel, oh yeah, touch up your paint over your brad nails and your hammer marks, because you know you got to tap those down further because they don't go down all the way. I have just a little simple staple gun from Walmart, so I pulled the stencil up while the paint was still wet because that prevents it from peeling. I went over my stencil at the top, okay? So pay attention when you're doing it to make sure you don't go over the stencil top. And where it bled, instead of trying to wipe it off, which I did try to wipe it off at first, instead of trying to keep wiping it off, like that wasn't going to happen. I mean, let's be real with each other right now. I went and got me a little bitty paintbrush and I dipped it in the white paint and I just kind of evened those lines out to make it look like it was supposed to be like that, instead of trying to wipe it off and then have a mark of what was a remnant of paint that was wiped off. So I actually think it was the better idea because it essentially ends up looking like it was supposed to be there. Not supposed to, but it evens the line out. You know what I'm saying. So now that's all finished. We are going to move to the living room so you can see the final product. Alright everybody, we got this done in one day. This is our final product. It stands right over 5 foot tall, and I think it turned out great. Tell me what you think. Okay, as I was sitting here editing the video, I realized that I just kind of ended it abruptly. Sorry for that. So, it's not going to end abruptly now. Okay, so I did take it out after I did my final little shot there for y'all. I took it outside and I gave it a coat of Rust-Oleum 2x satin finish, like a sealer is what it is, and I let it dry. It dries super fast. It's a fast drying spray sealer, so you're supposed to give it 2 to 3 coats. I just gave it 1 for tonight because I just wanted to put a sealer on it real fast and get that dealt with. And then I brought it in and I took pictures and I posted on social media. So that's what I did. Thanks so much for watching this video. Sorry it's kind of long, but it has been a long day. So it took longer to figure out why I couldn't record over 7 minutes on my phone. And I'm so glad, because I kept looking. I knew there was trash that needed to be emptied, so I'm so glad I kept looking and I found it, and I was able to film this video so that I could upload it to YouTube. And I really hope that y'all like my content. I have not, I mentioned in my last video or two, I can't remember when it's been a while. I need to be more consistent. I'm sorry about that. I'm working on it. I am going to be ripping up carpet out of the master and laying floor. And I have not done that yet just because, I don't know, I'm being lazy. It's a lot of stuff that's going to have to be done. I have a canopy bed back there, and I'm not going to take it apart to move it out just to be able to rip the carpet up to lay new floors. So I'm going to have to, there's a lot of stuff back there. There's a lot going on. There's some furniture that needs to be flipped, which I'm going to do, and I'm also going to make videos with that. But, yeah, I'm going to take the time, and we're going to make video of the floor being redone, and it's just a process of getting everything situated to where that it can be easily done, so that that bed can move from side of the room to the other side of the room, because it's a really big bed. So that being said, I hope that you will consider joining my family here on the YouTubes, and hit subscribe, like, share, help your girl out. I am trying to grow my channel. I really am. And if you just want to see me, run on not all cylinders and kind of make a mess of my projects, but they end up coming out okay in the long run, then this is the spot for you. I'm here for it. Are you? So thanks for joining. Hope you liked the video. See you next time.